There are scholars who have spoken about Tiruvalluvar, about Tirukural, and I know there are many sitting here and connected, those who have devoted their life pursuing a study of Tirukural, propagating it, disseminating the message across the world. I stand before you here today not as a governor, as an alumna, but as a student, as a shishya of Tiruvalluvar. And I would like to share with you my experience with Tirukural and Tiruvalluvar. It has been an emotional connect, goes back several decades. My first contact or connect with Tirukural and Tiruvalluvar was when I was a high school student. You know, it was, I vividly remember 1964. I was a class 9 student. At the time, you know, the British had left us in a very bad shape. In a village where I was born and I lived and brought up, no electricity, no road, schools were far off. You couldn't even use bicycle to go to school. But somehow, I was an ambitious student. And perhaps my ambition was far beyond the circumstances where I lived. If I could share my ambition with anyone, they could hold me crazy. So I was confronted with, on the one side, I was inspired by my ambition, but at the same time confronted by the constraints of the environment. So in 1964, on Vasant Panchami, on the day when we have the Saraswati Puja, though the teachings were closed, the school was closed for classes, but in every school we used to have a festival, a puja. We used to worship Devi Saraswati. And every student would assemble. Many times parents also would come. After the puja was over, I walked into my school library, a small one. You can imagine the rural setup. It was a Hindi medium school. And I used to look for inspirational stories, what they used to call Preranatmak Kahaniya. So while on the day in the afternoon, I was reading this one such book, there I came across a Kural. It said, दक्षिण भारत के एक महान संत Tiruvalluvar ne kaha. A great saint of South Bharat, Tiruvalluvar, has said this. And the Kural, which I hear it often, and today also I heard it many times while they presented, during Velupartu as well as other talks. Enniye enniang edip enniyar tinniye ag pere. And the Hindi translation was, which runs like something like this, that if you are firm in your will, nothing will stop you, you will achieve it. Before that, I was introduced to Bhagavad Gita at a younger age, and I had memorized almost all the 700 slokas. And very often I used to recite Karmande vadhikaraste ma phale sukadashana ma karma phal hetrabhute samvastu karmani. You do your. But somehow at that young mind, I was not able to fully comprehend that I devote myself to the work and don't worry about the result. Will I get the result if I don't think of the result? So I was carrying myself with my ambition along with the slokas of Gita. But when this Kural came in my life, believe me, it just propelled me. I said, look, this Enniang Edipe Enniyar Tinniye Ag Perin will keep me through. And these two slokas have been my inspiration all through my life. At the time, as a student, I was a great admirer of Tiruvalluvar, little knowing who he was, except that he was a great saint of South Bharat. Beyond that, I didn't know. And this was only Kural, nothing else. There was no Tirukural book available, nothing was available. And this also was written in Devanagari script, a script in which Hindi is written. When I came to Tamil Nadu, one of the first book I got was Tirukural. And when I started reading it, every time I could read a Kural, it was an experience, a feeling beyond imagination. Dr. Hari and Hema, they made a presentation where they said this entire ocean is put in one Kural. In Hindi, there is a saying that putting sagar in gagar. Sagar is ocean, put it in a gagar is a pot. But pot itself is not that small, but this Kural is so small and it contains so much. When I started reading it, I found every aspect of life as an individual, as a family. Every situation is described so beautifully. It talks also about the state and statecraft. And there I found that the king is not sovereign, which is in our Indian understanding. In Bharatiya darshan, unlike in European understanding of a state, where a state, the ruler is sovereign, here king is not sovereign, because Tiruvalluvar has prescribed a set of conditions that a king, a prince must have all these. He has certain duties toward the people, keep them prosperous, defend, have a strong military, have good alliances with others, talking about foreign relations. In detail, the responsibility and do's and don'ts. And kings are subject to all these do's and don'ts. In fact, at one point he says, and I was again wonderstruck, that if the king is not virtuous, the cow will stop giving milk and learned will forget the scriptures. It has been an amazing experience. He talks about life beyond. He talks about how the knowledge that you gain through five senses are not enough. The knowledge gained through five senses are bhautik knowledge, physical knowledge. There is something beyond, and that is what he says, in search for truth. You have to go beyond the knowledge that you acquire through five senses. His love for every creature, big and small, amazing. He looks at the whole world as a family. Not only humans, but entire creation as a family. This, if you call it a book, it is such an astounding, comprehensive compendium on life, and life in its fullness, an integral life. It is a celebration of life. Celebration not in the sense that the carnal celebration that you satisfy just for the pleasure of the senses is far beyond. He tells that as a human being, you are born as a human. You have a responsibility to rise above. If you are not virtuous, you have not gone for the truth, it is a waste. Life is a waste. Now, he exhorts at every point. This is a complete Dharma Shastra. And then I became a disciple of Tiruvalluvar. From admirer to a disciple. From the one who was inspirational to one who became a guru. And when you have a guru as a shishya, you just unquestioningly follow him. That stage it reached. And today's event that we are celebrating here on Vaikashi Anusam, because this is the day by Tamil calendar which is related with Tiruvalluvar. And this day not being observed the way it should be, I thought, this is not what it should be. And as a humble tribute to my Guru, I organized this event. I have read several translations, commentaries on Tirukural. Translations, two translations, seldom they meet exactly. It is because of course, the richness of language, but also that people look at, the translators and commentators look at Tirukural from different perspective. From intellectual perspective, from ideological perspective, from a spiritual perspective. If you look at an intellectual perspective, people start comparing Tirukural with Greek writers. Someone starts comparing with the European writers, Shakespeare and others. Those with ideological perspective, they have their own constraints. And of course, a spiritual one is something which is a total devotion. When we look at Tiruvalluvar, his legacy, Tirukural, from a perspective we only get a side view, a one-side view. It's like a glass that we wear. If I wear a green glass, everything will look green. If it is red, things will look red. If I'm ideologically oriented in a particular line, I will look at everything from that perspective. This is how I will interpret it. And that is why I find that many of the translations, the actual words have been changed in a way to suit the ideological predilection of the translator or the commentator. I think Tiruvalluvar is too big for any of us. We are small. And we must humbly accept it without hubris, without arrogance, intellectual arrogance. We must submit. And because this is a divine gift to humanity. The fact that Tiruvalluvar was born on this Punya Bhumi, on this land, we must be proud of. The fact that he spoke and wrote in Tamil language, the ancient, the most ancient and perhaps the richest language. The expression, the power of expression. I heard His Holiness was talking, he was in his speech, he says, Governor may not be understanding the language Tamil and all, but still he claps and all, he does it. The point is, I am a student, I am learning. Of course. It's such a sweet and powerful language. Imagine the civilizational evolution of this place. Several thousand years ago, because language reflects the civilizational status of the people. European languages are incapable. I find many commentators borrowing words from English here and there. They are incomplete. They cannot do justice. For many words, there is no equivalent because civilizationally they have not reached that stage. And it is our duty to retain those words, explain those words, rather than using European language equivalent of that. That's not very fair to me. Tirukural deserves to be a world book. There is no doubt about it. It is. And it is being translated, distributed, disseminated across the world. Our Prime Minister is a great admirer of Tiruvalluvar and Tirukural. He has a translation, Hindi translation of it with him. Of course, he also has an English translation. He often reads it. He tries to also learn some Tamil language also, but of course, occupation given those responsibilities. When I am sitting here for 2.5 years, though I can read, I read Tamil papers, I read Tamil books, I may not be fluent in talk, that's a different matter. For him, when I am here, I have reached this much. When he is there with so much of responsibilities, no, you can understand his constraints. But he's a great admirer. And I'm sure at appropriate time, he would be taking steps to make it a world book. At every forum, he doesn't miss an opportunity to quote something from the Kural, some Kural. Because this is such a treasure. You think of a situation and you have in it. Now, if you count it, it is only 1,330 30 verses. Not that big a number. But this volume, it contains situations of every aspect of life. This is amazing. And that is where my firm belief is that Tiruvalluvar was not just a human being. He was divine. It was something beyond even the most brilliant of human beings. Because intellectual brilliance alone is not enough to throw the light on the issues with clarity, with lucidity, with which Tiruvalluvar has done it. It was simply divine. And I pay my wholehearted, humble respect and regard to him. I thank you all for participating in this event. Let us continue with pride in this our proud heritage. And do it in a traditional manner. We know ours is a several thousand years old civilization. It is not like Europe or like other parts of the world. Several thousands years old. So the traditional way in which it has been observed, Vaikashi Anusham, is the day, Tiruvalluvar's day. Every day can be Tiruvalluvar day. Every day should begin with a Tirukural. There is no doubt about it, a Kural. But when it comes to honoring, when it comes to remembering with a sense of obeisance, that auspicious day, its dignity must be preserved. And that's why this Vaikasi Anusam is the day on which we must celebrate, not only all over Tamil Nadu, because Tiruvalluvar Buddha might have been born here, and he was born here, but he belongs to the world. He is not, no place, no ideology, nothing can constrain him. He is boundless. And we must celebrate it all over. I will do my best as a student, as a Shishya, to take it beyond Tamil Nadu in the rest of the country. I once again, friends, I thank you for the participation, and I once again wish you the very best, the best of my greetings and best wishes on this auspicious day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. நன்றி உரையாற்ற திருவள்ளுவர் திருநாட்கழகத்தின் துணைத் தலைவர் டாக்டர் எஸ் பத்மா அவர்களை பணிவன்போடு அழைக்கின்றோம்.
இந்த அறிஞர் அவையை வணங்கி மகிழ்வதில் பெருமை அடைகிறேன். இனிய மாலை பொழுது. சரித்திரத்தில் ஆணித்தரமான பதிவுகள் செய்யப்பட்ட இனிய நிகழ்வு. தமிழரின் பெருமையை உலகறியச் செய்த மகானின் பிறந்த நாள் விழா. தமிழ் மறை, தமிழ் வேதம் என உலக மொழி அறிஞர்களாலும் தத்துவவாதிகளாலும் சட்ட வல்லுநர்களாலும் கடைசி குடிமகனாலும் கூட ஒப்புக்கொள்ளப்பட்ட நூல் திருக்குறள் என்பதில் இருவேறு கருத்துக்கள் இல்லை. இல்லாத பொருள் ஏதும் இல்லாத நூல் என்றும் அணுவை துளைத்து 7 கடல் புகுத்திய நூல் என்று ஒப்புக்கொள்ளப்பட்ட திருக்குறளை உலகிற்கு ஈந்த பேர் அருளாளரின் பிறந்த நாள் விழா. இதை உலகறிய செய்ய உத்தமர்களை கொண்ட இந்த அவைக்கு திருவள்ளுவர் திருநாள் விழா குழுவினருக்கு என் முதல் நன்றியை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். மிக அற்புதமாக முத்தமிழ் வாழ்விலக்கியம் திருக்குறள் என்பதையும் வள்ளுவர் பிறந்தது வைகாசி அனுசம் என்பதையும்